She used to feel in control. She thought she had your full attention. But the moment she realizes you've stopped caring, everything changes. And not in the way she expected. When a woman notices that your energy is no longer revolving around her, when you're not texting her back instantly, not watching her stories, not checking in or chasing, it creates a deep shift. Something in her flips. And this isn't about revenge. This is about power. Because attention is currency. And when you stop spending it on her, she feels the loss in a way that words can't explain. In this video, I'll break down exactly what happens when a woman realizes she lost your attention, how she reacts, why it throws her off emotionally, and how you should respond to make sure you keep the upper hand. She used to feel in control. She thought she had your full attention. But the moment she realizes you've stopped caring, everything changes. And not in the way she expected. When a woman senses that your focus isn't on her anymore, that your energy is shifting elsewhere, it triggers something deeper than just curiosity. It creates a power vacuum. And if she's used to being the center of your attention, that shift feels threatening. It's not about love. It's about control. About losing the grip she thought she had on your emotions. Women don't panic when they're rejected. They panic when they feel ignored. And especially when it's a man they were certain they had locked down. Now at first, she won't freak out openly. She might even pretend she doesn't care. But the truth is, the change doesn't go unnoticed. She picks up on the smaller things. You're not texting as often. Your replies are shorter. There's no more enthusiasm in your voice. You don't ask what she's doing. You don't double text. You don't show signs of chasing. And suddenly, the invisible spotlight she was used to standing under disappears. She might try to convince herself it's nothing. Maybe you're just busy. Maybe it's a phase. But women have razor-sharp intuition when it comes to shifts in energy. And she knows something is off. This is when the testing starts. She'll reach out with a random message, something casual. She might send a meme, a joke, a random thinking of you text, anything to check the temperature. She wants to see if you'll still respond the way you used to, if you're still available to her. And here's where most guys mess up. They get a message from her and they light up. They think she's back, that she's interested again. So they respond with excitement, they go back to chasing, and she instantly knows she still has him. Game over. But when you stay calm, when your reply is neutral, maybe even delayed, she starts to feel something she wasn't ready for. Insecurity.
And that insecurity is a powerful shift. She'll go from curious to anxious, from relaxed to restless, because now she's not sure if she's still the one who holds the power. She starts scrolling through old messages, reading them back, analyzing your tone, trying to figure out where it changed. Did she say something wrong? Was she too cold? Did you meet someone else? Even if she wasn't fully invested before, even if she thought she had options, the moment she thinks she's not wanted, not prioritized, everything becomes about you again. That's how the female ego works. It's not just about who you are, it's about what your attention represents. And once that attention is withdrawn, she feels like something's been taken from her. That's when she begins to shift her behavior, subtly at first. She might post something online she knows you'll see. A selfie, a story, something with a caption meant to make you react. Not because she's craving compliments, but because she wants to see if you're still watching. It's a silent test. She's basically saying, I'm still here. Do I still affect you? If you view it, like it, or respond to it, she breathes a little easier. But if you don't, if you keep your distance, the panic starts to set in. What's important to understand here is that this isn't about her liking you more than before. It's not about love deepening overnight. It's about the discomfort of losing something she thought was hers. See, when you gave her your attention freely, she could take it for granted. She could be distant, cold, or even disrespectful, knowing that no matter what, you'd still be there. But once you take it back, once she senses that you've emotionally pulled away, her whole strategy falls apart. Now she's the one trying to figure you out. Now she's the one uncertain. And the more indifferent you seem, the more effort she puts in. At first, it's subtle. More texts. Maybe she compliments you out of nowhere. Then it escalates. She asks to meet up. She tries to reconnect through mutual friends. She brings up old memories to rebuild that emotional link. She might even apologize for things she said in the past, just to open that door again. But what she's really doing is chasing reassurance. She wants to know that she didn't lose her place in your life. She wants to know that if she wants you back, she can still have you.
But here's where things get dangerous. If you give in too soon, all the power you built up by stepping back will disappear in an instant. She'll take the validation, feel relieved, and go right back to her old ways. But if you hold your ground, if you let her feel the tension without rushing in to fix it, she starts investing more emotionally than she intended to. And that's when the dynamic truly flips. Because now, she's not just wondering what you're doing. She's wondering who you're doing it with. Her mind creates images of you with someone else, of you laughing, smiling, giving your attention to another woman. And those thoughts? They're torture. Because if she never really wanted you, she wouldn't care. But the fact that she can't stand the idea of you moving on, that tells her more about her own feelings than she ever expected. She starts to realize it's not just your attention she's missing. It's the connection, the sense of value, the way you made her feel without even trying. Now, some women will act out. They'll post things that scream, "Look at how happy I am without you." But it's fake. It's performative. It's her trying to control the narrative because deep down, she feels like she's losing. And a woman who feels
like she's losing control becomes unpredictable. She might come back with intensity. She might blow up your phone, try to provoke you, or even accuse you of things just to get a reaction. She's no longer acting from logic. She's acting from fear. And the worst part for her is realizing that you're not even playing the game anymore. You're not trying to win her over, or get her back, or prove anything. You've simply lost interest. And nothing stings more than a man who's at peace with walking away. The silence becomes louder than any argument. She feels it in the gaps, the time between your replies, the missing good mornings, the way your name hasn't shown up in her notifications for days. That silence makes her uncomfortable because it forces her to sit with something she's been avoiding. You were actually serious about pulling back. You weren't bluffing. You didn't just take space to manipulate her. You really detached. And now that she's no longer the center of your world, she's struggling to make sense of who she is, without your validation. This is where things start to get emotional for her, in a way she didn't anticipate. She may start romanticizing the connection, looking back at moments that didn't
feel special to her before but suddenly do now. That time you cooked for her, or how you remembered little things she said, those memories hit differently now because she doesn't feel that warmth anymore. And the brain, especially the female brain, reacts in interesting ways when it senses loss. It starts to exaggerate value. You become more attractive in her mind, more mysterious, more worth chasing, simply because you're no longer easy to reach. This is exactly why attention is the most expensive currency in relationships. The more you give it freely, the less it's worth. The less you give, the more valuable it becomes, especially when it was once abundant. She remembers how you used to drop everything just to reply fast, how you'd cancel plans to see her, how you'd check in to make sure she was okay, even when she didn't ask. And now, nothing. You've gone from consistent to distant, from predictable to unreadable. And that shift hits hard. Because in her mind, if a man changes his behavior that sharply, it must mean something happened. She just doesn't know what. And the unknown drives her insane. That's why she starts looking for signs. She checks your online activity, who you follow, who's liking your posts. If your status is active, she becomes a detective.
trying to put pieces together that might explain why your attention vanished. And when she can't find anything concrete, She fills in the blanks with her imagination. Maybe he found someone else. Maybe he realized he deserves better. Maybe I pushed him too far. Even if she was never fully invested emotionally before, she starts to crave answers. Craving answers turns into craving closure. Craving closure turns into craving you again. It's a psychological spiral. And the crazy thing is, she might not even want a relationship. She might not see you as her forever. But the thought that you decided to let go before she did, that feels like a rejection of her identity. It's not just about you. It's about what your distance says about her. And the female ego, just like the male ego, doesn't handle that well. Because losing your attention feels personal, even if you never made it about her. She feels discarded, overlooked, like her charm didn't work. And that bruises her pride more than she'll ever admit. Now here's where most guys don't realize they're holding power. When a woman realizes she lost your attention, her reactions aren't always loud. They're not always visible. She might not blow up your phone or show up uninvited, but inside, there's
a storm. She starts doing things out of character. She starts second-guessing herself. She rereads your conversations at night. She remembers things you said in passing and wonders if you were always planning to move on. And then comes the comparison phase, where she compares every new guy she talks to against the version of you she's created in her head. And almost none of them measure up. Because whether or not you were perfect, your detachment elevated your status. It made her think, if he could walk away from me, maybe I missed something. That's the seed of doubt you planted, without manipulation, without games, just by walking away when you weren't getting the respect you deserved. And that's a different type of pain for her. Not heartbreak, not sadness, but regret. The slow burning kind. The one that builds over time as she realizes she may not get another version of you again. Some women respond to this regret by trying to rebuild the connection. They might reach out with more vulnerability than before. They might open up emotionally, apologize, or ask direct questions. Did I do something wrong? Have you moved on? Be honest. Are you seeing someone? These aren't just casual check-ins. These are signs that she's mentally spiraling, that she's trying to get back control, not just over the situation, but over her self-image, because your distance made her question herself. But the more you act unaffected, the more you stay cool, not cold, the more she feels like you've leveled up without her. She starts to believe you're the one who grew, that maybe the way she treated you before wouldn't even work now. And that feeling? It's hard to shake. It lingers. It follows her even when she's with other guys. And she can fake it on social media all she wants. She can post pictures with other people, travel, go out. But if she's still watching your stories, still responding to your old texts in her head, still wondering what you're thinking, she hasn't moved on. She's just pretending she has. Meanwhile, your silence starts to look like strength. At first, she thought you were ignoring her to punish her, but now she's starting to think maybe, just maybe, you outgrew the version of her that thought she could treat you any way and still be chaste. And that's what eats her alive. The idea that you no longer see her as the prize, that you're not hurting, or bitter, or even angry. You're just done. That quiet done hits harder than any loud argument ever could. Now that she's convinced you've let go for real, her mind doesn't just replay the moments you shared. It starts to rewrite them. She begins to reinterpret things she overlooked before. That time you gave her your full attention and she brushed it off like it was nothing. Now it feels like something sacred she didn't appreciate. That night you tried to talk to her seriously and she brushed you off with a one-word answer. It plays on repeat in her head. She starts to realize she wasn't the
only one who could have been chosen. You had options too. You just chose her, until you didn't. And this is the part where regret turns into quiet desperation. She might not express it publicly, but inside she's trying to figure out how to re-enter your orbit. She starts thinking about what kind of message would get a reply. She types it out, deletes it, rewrites it. She stalks your page for clues, hoping you've posted something emotional or vague that gives her a way back in. And when she doesn't find anything, that drives her crazier. Because silence with no closure is the hardest pill to swallow. You didn't ghost her. You didn't start drama. You just pulled back and moved on with dignity. And that's the kind of response that leaves a deeper mark than any insult ever could. You see, most women are used to guys reacting emotionally. They're used to men begging, chasing, seeking validation, trying to fix what's broken. But when you don't play that role, when you just detach and disappear emotionally, it forces her to sit in her own reflection. And here's the truth she can't ignore. If you were as weak or desperate as she once thought, you'd still be around. But you're not. You're thriving. You're posting less, but living more. You're not broadcasting your healing journey because you're not trying to prove anything. You're just doing better, and it shows. At this point, she starts testing the waters. A random like on your story, a heart emoji on a post, a comment that seems innocent on the surface but is laced with meaning. It's her way of saying, "Hey, I'm still here. Are you watching?" But if you've truly moved on, if your silence wasn't just a tactic, but a decision, you won't bite. And that's when the fear creeps in. The fear that someone else is getting the version of you she took for granted. The fear that she didn't just lose your attention temporarily. She lost access to the entire experience of you. And this feeling doesn't just fade. It sits in the back of her mind during quiet moments. It shows up when she's lying in bed alone. It whispers in her ear when she's talking to other men. She starts noticing how those new guys don't make her laugh the way you did, how they don't listen like you did, how they're not as driven or thoughtful or protective. And every comparison, every gap, every "he's not like him" moment, it just builds up the fantasy of you even more. Not because you were perfect, but because you became rare. That rarity is what starts to haunt her. She realizes now that attention isn't something to take for granted. It's not guaranteed, especially not from a man who respects himself. You weren't desperate. You weren't playing games. You were fully present until you weren't. And when a woman sees that shift, that moment you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop proving your worth, it creates an emotional
vacuum. One she doesn't know how to fill. She might start telling her friends about you more than before. Not because she's still hooked, but because she's trying to process the discomfort of being the one left behind. She might play it off like it's no big deal, but the fact that you're still a topic of conversation weeks or months later says everything. And deep down, she knows it. She knows she could have had more, but she wanted to see if you'd chase harder. She knows she tested you not to push you away, but to see if you'd fight to stay. And when you didn't, when you let her walk, that's the part that really broke her. Because she realizes now, men like you don't come around often. Men who lead with presence, but also know when to walk. Men who care, but still have boundaries. Men who give attention, but don't beg for scraps. That balance is rare and unforgettable. And once she loses it, it's almost impossible to replicate. No matter how many guys she lines up after, they all feel like a downgrade. Because none of them have the same fire you had. Not in how you spoke, not in how you carried yourself, and definitely not in how you handled rejection. That last part sticks with her. How gracefully you walked away. No public drama, no bitter remarks, no games. You just stopped showing up. And that quiet exit? That's what leaves the loudest echo. It forces her to look inward, to question her own behavior, to reflect on the way she treated you. And sometimes, that's the only thing that can truly humble someone. The realization that they lost someone who actually saw them, cared for them, and would have done anything for them if they had just matched the effort. And now, she's watching from a distance. Maybe she won't ever say it out loud. Maybe she'll never admit she messed up. But the way she watches you now, with curiosity, with a hint of regret, with more emotion than she ever let on, It tells you everything you need to know. She's not over it. She's just quiet about it. And the more silent you stay, the louder her thoughts become. The truth is, your silence becomes a mirror, a reflection of everything she ignored, everything she dismissed, and everything she assumed she'd always have access to. You didn't scream, you didn't slam doors, you didn't beg her to see your worth. You just stopped showing up. And that's what she sees every time she scrolls past your name now. A reminder of how she mishandled someone rare, someone real. And what hits even harder? She knows you didn't cut her off to get a reaction. You walked away because you were done feeding energy into something that drained you. And here's where things take a different turn. The same woman who once had the upper hand, the one who thought she could pull away and still have you waiting, now starts chasing a ghost. Not necessarily texting you directly, but she's checking who you follow, when you're online, if you've watched her story. She might even start posting things she thinks will catch your attention. Subtle quotes, old photos, cryptic captions. It's her way of saying, "I miss you," without having to say it out loud. But when you don't respond, when you don't validate her need for attention, she feels invisible. And that's a feeling she can't stand.
You flipped the dynamic without even trying. She went from being the one who was pursued to the one who's now emotionally invested in getting back your attention. She might not even want you back romantically. Not yet. What she wants first is reassurance. She wants to know she still has a place in your world, that she still matters, that her leaving didn't affect you the way she feared. Because if you didn't break down when she pulled away, it means you're stronger than she thought. And strength, especially emotional strength, becomes extremely attractive in hindsight. This is the moment where she begins to understand a hard truth. A man who can detach with class is a man she never really had control over to begin with. You weren't staying because you couldn't do better. You stayed because you wanted to. And now that you've left, she realizes how deep that desire ran. You weren't just giving her attention for fun. You were emotionally invested. You saw something in her that made you show up fully, and she squandered it. That realization can keep a person up at night, because it wasn't just that you stopped texting. You stopped caring. You stopped choosing her. And once a man stops choosing a woman, she feels it, deeply. Not just in the way your name fades from her notifications, but in how her own confidence starts to shift. She might try to distract herself. New guys, more social events, fake positivity, but none of it fills the gap. Because the loss isn't about you as a person. It's about what you represented, the presence, the stability, the sense of being wanted without needing to perform. And now that's gone. She's left chasing feelings, not people. And she keeps falling short. So what does she do now? Maybe she'll try one more time. A direct message. Hey, how have you been? That seems casual, but is loaded with meaning. Maybe she wants to meet as friends, but what she really wants is to measure if you still feel something. And depending on how you respond, she'll either feel relief or realize the door has closed for good. But here's the thing. By the time most men walk away emotionally, they've already grieved the loss while they were still in it. You already processed the disconnection when she started acting cold, when she took your presence for granted. So if she reaches out now, all she's getting is a new version of you, colder, wiser, and much harder to access. You might still care, sure, but caring doesn't mean returning to the same dynamic that made you lose yourself. And that's what she starts to understand, that her actions had consequences, that love isn't a game where she can keep the ball in her court and expect you to play by her rules. And this new version of you, it's not just more selective, it's more self-respecting. You don't chase anyone who makes you feel like an option. You don't pour your energy into someone who couldn't appreciate it when it was overflowing. And maybe, just maybe, this changes her. Not just in how she sees you, but in how she moves in future relationships. You became her lesson, her turning point. You were the one who showed her what it feels like to lose something real without a dramatic ending. No warnings, no tantrums, just distance. And that type of departure doesn't just sting, it lingers. It rewires how she responds to men from that moment on. Because from now on, she'll think twice before taking someone's presence for granted. She'll remember what it felt like to lose the kind of man who gave her peace, consistency, and genuine affection, without needing to be reminded of his worth. And that's the part most people don't talk about. Sometimes, your greatest power isn't in what you say. It's in what you stop saying. It's in the energy you stop giving. It's in the silence you choose instead of arguments. And when a woman realizes she lost that version of you, the one who gave, listened, showed up, and then disappeared without warning, it's a wake-up call she'll never forget. So don't underestimate what happens when you pull back for real. Don't downplay the effect of silence paired with growth. Because when a woman sees that you didn't just leave, you leveled up, that's when the full weight of her loss hits. And by then, it's no longer about winning her back. It's about realizing that maybe, just maybe, she was never ready for the kind of love you were offering in the first place. Now she's just an observer, watching someone she once had all of, from a distance, wondering how she let it all slip away, just because she thought you'd always be there. Watch the next video right here.